everybody, and welcome to our first podcast in our D&I series. I just want to start with kind of a bit of a background information just for those who aren't aware. At Visual, we've recently set up a diversity and inclusion group. We want to start covering relevant topics that we have been talking about and we have been supporting and educating people on in the past, but we want to make sure now that we're doing more than we ever have done before. So we're starting to grow our group at the moment. I think there's about maybe 10 to 15 of us at the minute in Visual. And we know people from all different backgrounds, people with interests in all different areas, which is great. So we've got a lot of people in there at the minute that are really looking forward to spreading some education and spreading some support with other people as well, which is great. So to kick off, we wanted to start an educational podcast series. So in the future, you will start to see some new faces from around the business talking about topics that inspire them, topics that are close to their hearts and that they want to educate people on, which is fab. So to kick off, I'm joined today by Shaira, who's going to be talking about all things Ramadan and how she's been coping during a global pandemic. So I'm sure it's been very challenging, so I can't wait to get into that. But Shaira, do you just want to give a little bit of an introduction to yourself and why you're here today?
Yeah, so I guess I'm pretty sure everyone in Visual already knows me, but if you don't, I'm Shaira. I work in the project management office. I came in on a graduate PM role and I'll be joining the PM team soon. So today I was going to discuss sort of around Ramadan and why we observe that as Muslims. And I just think sometimes topics like these, it might be a case of people aren't aware about it or they're not sure how to approach it. And I guess the purpose of the podcast is just to sort of create an open dialogue somewhere people can come and get a bit more of a better understanding about this and create a conversation, I guess. So, yeah.
Lovely. So to kick off then, would you be happy just to give us a little bit of an overview about Ramadan for those that don't know or those that have a little bit of understanding? I think it'd just be a good way to start off the video.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely a good place to start because I think there might be people who aren't aware what it is or why we observe it. So Ramadan is a month in the Islamic calendar, so that's what it's called, like how we have January, February, March, etc. And the Islamic calendar is dictated by the lunar cycle, so depending on the stages of the moon. So the months each year will change depending on that. And then Ramadan it ends up falling different times each year. So this year it fell in early May time. And we fast for all of the daylight hours. So from sunrise till sunset, you won't be eating anything, you won't be drinking anything. And then once the sun is set, then you can drink and eat as usual up until the point that it's sunrise again. And then you basically just repeat that cycle. And Ramadan lasts for 29 or 30 days. And that, again, is dependent on the lunar cycle. So basically, when the moon is full, that'll mark the start of a month. And generally, don't quote me on it, the lunar cycle is like a 30-day thing. So when that's completed, that'll be the end of the month. And that'll be the end of the 30 or 29 or 30 days that we fast for. So that's like the basic overview of what we do.
Lovely. So do you want to just let us know a little bit around the meaning behind it and the purpose of it?
Yeah. So the meaning of it is, so at a very basic level, we're depriving ourselves of food and water, something that we need every single day, we have all the time, and essentially we take for granted because we've always got it, or at least, in this country, we're pretty lucky. We've got like ample food and water all the time. But I think it's more of a spiritual exercise to cleanse not only your body but your mind as well, and train yourself to be able to let go of these attachments. So I know that we think, oh, we'll die if I don't eat food and water for like 2-3 hours, but it's more just training yourself to be able to cope for that long. So although the physical aspect of it is that you're not eating, it also helps to strengthen sort of like your mindset. So focusing on other things or focusing your energy on other things rather than focusing on the fact that you're not eating all day. And also it's amazing how quickly your body adapts after about, I'd say like the first 2-3 days, you literally won't feel hungry because your body just naturally expects that until, 8 p.m. at night, I'm not going to get fed. So your body will just naturally sort of fall into that cycle and stop craving. Just like if you were trying to cut out coffee, for example, in the mornings, after like a week, you'll stop getting headaches because you're not having coffee anymore. It's the same concept, but it's more so of it's that spiritual exercise, I think, and making us all realize that it's our minds that are in control of everything. It's not our bodies. So as long as we can put our mind to it and think that we can push past this, we don't need to eat this for this amount of time, we can carry on as normal, and we can. And I do it every single year. I have done for years now, and I find it like a really rewarding month, being able to see that I can carry on doing all my daily tasks, and like it really doesn't affect me that I'm not eating. And then again, from an Islamic perspective, it's also spending that month trying to give back to others. So, we're pretty lucky. At the end of the day, my mum will cook a ton of food and we'll have so much to eat. And it's like we all look forward to being able to eat at the end of the day. But there's people out there, or other Muslims in third world countries, or even within this country, who are living in poverty, that don't have access to food or water. And at the end of the day, we'll probably be sharing a meal, or if even that. So I think it's considering that side of things, that for some people this is a reality they live every day. For us, it's a 30-day thing that we're timing, and we know that at the end we'll have plenty of food and it's fine. Some people have to live like that every single day, and it's not a choice, it's just what they have to live with. So we sort of, more than we would usually, we try and take that month to give back to our community, whether it's just sort of handing out food to local families or other people who are in need, or spending time with people that you wouldn't usually, like the elderly, sort of trying to actively find things where you can give back. So I think that really helps to, I guess, make you feel better, make you reflect on, like, 12 months of the year you're just busy like with your own life and you get caught up in things, and then it's just like slowing you down and saying, give back to people that actually are in need. So it's nice in that sense. Yeah.
So in terms of giving back to people, then obviously you just mentioned there that you do a lot and kind of reflect in that aspect, which is great. Obviously with a global pandemic, how have you been able to give back to people, obviously not being able to have that almost community sense at the moment? What kind of things have you been doing to give back?
So yeah, this year, like, it's definitely been a bit more of a struggle, because usually we'd have sort of like, so there's like mosques in most of the big cities at the moment, where a lot of Muslims would congregate and everyone would like bring different items of food and they'd all share it. So in the end, everyone's got something to eat and everyone leaves with their belly full. You know what I mean? But obviously stuff like that, you can't have large gatherings. We couldn't do anything like that. So this year we just decided to donate money, because there wasn't really much else we could physically do. We couldn't really go out and hand food to anyone. We couldn't even share food between just like families that I've got living around, where you go and, like, you'll drop off a lasagna or whatever. But we couldn't even do that because we're not allowed to meet anyone. The only thing we could really do was just donate, really. So it was a bit of a struggle this year, to be fair.
Yeah. So in terms of kind of from a working perspective, in previous years, global pandemic aside, you would be commuting to the regional offices a normal day-to-day basis. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges that you had to face fasting when you're working all those hours at work, you're doing overtime and you're going to travel in and out, and you might not get a full lunch break, when things get a bit busy. And I'm sure, for the average person, it's challenging enough doing all that on a normal day, but I can't imagine what that's like for you. Fasting, I can't imagine it without actually going through it. So can you talk a little bit about the challenges, or the enjoyment, the positives, the negatives, that kind of stuff, but on a normal working year, COVID aside?
So I think it's sort of last year when I started working at Visual, I started midway through Ramadan. So I started while I was fasting. And from my perspective, like, sleep is a big thing. So we can eat from sunrise till sunset. So sunrise in May time was around like 4 o'clock in the morning ish. So we would usually have a very early breakfast from around like 3 a.m. so prior to sunrise. And then you can imagine that you go back to sleep, you only get like an hour or two of sleep, and then you have to wake back up for work. So I think it was just trying to be, from my perspective, a bit more regimented with making sure that I was going to bed earlier, so I was still getting enough sleep, so I wasn't, not able to pay attention in meetings at work and things like that, because at the end of the day, I still have to get to work for 8, 9 o'clock and carry on doing my day. So from that side of things. And then I guess from the other side, I think a perk is I wouldn't always have to take a lunch break because I'm not eating, essentially. So you actually gain an hour of your day to work, which I know doesn't sound great because I'm a bit of a workaholic, but I guess you just buy back a bit of time, or you can take a break and you can just go for a walk. You don't have to sit while everyone else is eating. If you want to go and give your legs a stretch, go for a walk and come back. But I find, and it's amazing, I think when you cut out how many times in a day you have a meal, you go and grab a coffee, you get so much more of your day back because you're not making coffee, making tea, making a meal. And I generally find I'm more productive in Ramadan. I get so much more done. The only downside of it is if you're staring at a screen for 8 hours, you just get really tired at the end of it. So it's just balancing, I think, from my perspective. The more days go by, the easier it gets for me because your body just gets used to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I can imagine that Charlotte from HR and maybe the management team will want me to say, you should be taking your lunch breaks and you should be taking regular breaks. So I'm sure I can hear Charlotte like in the back of my head saying it. So on the days that you did take a break, what kind of stuff did you do? Did you go for a walk or did you find yourself almost never taking a lunch break?
So I think it was a mixture. Like, it depends. If you had a super busy day, I wouldn't really have an issue sort of working through my lunch break and knowing that like sort of at the end of the day, I wouldn't feel the need to like stay behind longer to sort of, finish things off and get things ready for the next day. Or if I did take a break, sometimes the weather's quite nice, so I'd go for a walk or go and like sit on the benches outside just so you get a bit of time away from looking at a screen, and also just not go on my phone, not really actually do anything, but just sit outside and just enjoy the sun sometimes. So yeah, so it's fine. I was taking breaks. I can also hear Charlotte in the background. I was taking breaks. I can assure you, so it's fine.
Lovely. So obviously, as everybody's aware, we've been going through a global pandemic. So COVID has had a huge impact on many people in a negative aspect, unfortunately. So I think from a mental health perspective, a well-being perspective, almost everybody's been affected. It's been challenging, especially for businesses having to who normally work in the office every single day, having to quickly adapt and get everybody able to work from home. It's been an extremely challenging time for many people. Obviously, you had to fast during all of that, so I'm sure you've had to overcome maybe even some more challenges that you've never had to face before. So can you talk a little bit about the change from the previous years to now, but also if you have had any positives, it'd be really interesting to find that out as well.
Yeah, so I think like you said, this pandemic has obviously taken everyone by surprise, and it's not been the easiest to sort of, I guess, adapt to. So yes, for certain aspects of things, I guess trying to adapt to working from home when it was never something that I previously did. A lot of my jobs were office based. So I'm used to having, go into a place of work and that's where I'd work. Coming home is like, it's my relaxing space. I wasn't working at home. So it's sort of trying to find the right work-life balance sort of ended up becoming difficult, considering I was up in the early hours of the morning, making sure I've ate in time, still trying to get enough sleep, but then waking back up, and I think like a lot of people, I've been working, in my dining room or my living room and just trying to find spaces where, an empty spot in the house where I can just work. And sometimes it can, you get disrupted and then you've got calls. You can't have like a clear day of getting things done because you might have to move around a lot. So I guess it was just tough managing that. And then on top of that, sometimes you can just be, I think what a lot of people have found from being in lockdown constantly, you're just mentally quite exhausted, I think, from all the news that you're consuming all the time and all of that. It sort of does take a bit of a toll on your mental health. So I think from that side of things, compared to other years, it just felt like a really full-on month. It just felt like I had a lot to keep up with all the time. But then I guess there was positives to it because you're at home. I save time on commuting and traveling, which I'd usually, for me it's about a 40-minute drive into work, so I save time there. And also, if you're at home, then you can just, like quickly log off and go and pray when the time is right. Opposed to when you're at work, you might be in meetings and things and you have to excuse yourself. I guess it's all easier when you're working remotely because I'm already based at home. So it was, there was good aspects and there was bad aspects, but I'm sure a lot of people can relate with just feeling really overwhelmed. I think that was the main thing, that it all sort of fell together, and it took me a while to fall into a good, a healthy work-life balance and not working too late, but also making sure that like I'm going to be tired if I work too late and then I won't be able to, attend calls the next day or whatever. So it was just finding that balance, I think.
Yeah, I think as well, normally, say for last year, you would have had a routine and you would have had a structure to your day. You have to get up at a certain time, you have to eat at a certain time, you have to go to work, come home, go to bed. That you have a structure to your day, and that has, for everybody, has been completely taken away from them. But it's just, how do you adapt that so quickly? When you're already in the middle of it, how do you adapt to that, and what kind of things did you have to do or think of quickly to find structure in your day and find a routine that you were comfortable with and happy with?
So I think for me, like you said, having a lot of structure, I guess it depends what kind of person you are. I'm quite pedantic. I really like having a routine, being organised, having things to do, places to be. I've always sort of ran on that cycle. So it was really weird just having, I guess, a ton of time at home. So it was just setting myself like structured times, which I'll admit I didn't really follow very well. But like, trying to make sure that I'm logging off at 5:30 and I'm not spending too long working, making sure that I'm logging in on time so that I feel like I'm spending the adequate amount of time working, but not eating into my evenings. And like I said, some days were better than others. Some days I really struggled because I guess you're at work, you're at home even, you're working. There's not much else to do because you can't go out. You just sort of carry on past 5:30, and before you know it, it's like 7 o'clock, and you're like, right, I do need to log off now. So it was stuff like that where I was like, right, I need to just stop, getting carried away and working and giving myself a better routine. So it was just setting myself a better schedule to run on, I guess.
Yeah.
It's still a work in progress. I'm still fine.
Well, hopefully, if this ever does happen again, you might have a sort of routine to fall back on, maybe, or something that you've been able to learn from and adapt from. I don't know, but we'll see. Hopefully, it doesn't happen again.
Fingers crossed we never have to encounter another global pandemic, but if so, we've got like a full 12-week action plan now.
Yeah, exactly. So after Ramadan, then you obviously celebrate Eid, and I am absolutely sure that's been very different this year. So could you tell us a little bit, what the kind of stuff that you've been getting up to, how it's been different from previous years?
So yeah, with Eid, that comes at the end of Ramadan once we've completed our fasting, and it's like a 3-day, it's a 3-day celebration. So again, this year that fell in lockdown, and usually that's a chance for like all your family and friends to get together. And like it's very similar to like Christmas celebrations. You get dressed up, you all have like a big meal together, and it's just nice to see everyone after like a month of sort of self-reflection and a lot of time where you might have spent with yourself or with your immediate family. It's nice to see family and friends again. So this year we naturally didn't get to see much family and friends, but of course the power of, we're living in the digital era, so we had plenty of FaceTimes and Zoom calls and whatnot to sort of catch up with friends and family that we couldn't actually see in person. And from my perspective, my family always make it's sort of like, even if it is just us at home, we still made it a point to like get dressed up and still make a day out of it, because I think that really helped us all, from the mental health side of things, to it's still a day to be celebrated, even if we can't go out, even if we can't see family and friends. But it was definitely different compared to other years. So, yeah.
It's trying to make it feel normal, isn't it, I suppose, when you almost had that whole normality taken away from you. So I can imagine it would have been very challenging, but you seem to have done, adapted to it quite quickly and well, and you have still celebrated. Like you said, you still got dressed up and treated every day like it was normal, which is lovely. So although COVID has, affected a lot of things, it's good to see that people can still carry on and can try and see kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Lovely. So I think that's everything that we wanted to cover then. Is there anything else that you feel you've missed, or are you quite happy with that as a first podcast?
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. It was very much just an overview. But again, if anyone does have any questions or anything like that, then they're happy if they can send it into the Diversity Inclusion Forum. We can always cover it, or any topics for like future podcasts that they're interested for us to talk about or to learn a bit more about. That'd be great for us as a team, because I think we're looking to do a few more podcasts around sort of different topics as well.
Lovely. Fab. So we'll call it off there then. So thank you for those who have spent I think it's been about 20 minutes with us. It's been lovely. So hopefully you've kind of got a bit more of an understanding now, and you found it quite an educational call. We are looking to do a lot more upcoming podcasts with a variety of people. So we do have a lot of topics to cover. So if there is anything that you want to hear more about, or any questions that you have, feel free to comment or even email into Rizal as well. So we'll be happy to help in any way that we can. So thank you for tuning in.
Great.